Welcome to Module 10, Solving Sexual Frequency Conflicts, an issue in most of the bedrooms around the world, I would say. Definitely in America and Canada. In this module, I'm going to offer you several approaches to solving this problem. And I'm going to start with the one that may surprise you the most, the one I mentioned in the introduction. I'll start with the summary. Reinvent lovemaking to put female pleasure and female orgasm at the head of the line, so to speak. She comes first should be your policy at least half of the time. Most of the time would be even better. I've never known of a man who did this who regretted it. She will always make you glad you made that choice. So why is this problem so common? Answer. Because the lovemaking approach most couples use is seriously out of date. The idea that sex is a little foreplay plus intercourse plus orgasm for the man and maybe for the woman is seriously out of date. That definition was invented to help people make babies, not for long-term sexual joy for committed couples. Here are some of the specifics about what's out of date. What we call foreplay is often too short for most women. According to some studies, the average amount of time couples spend on foreplay is around 13 minutes. I'm pretty sure a lot of couples spend quite a bit less than that. Then when the amount of time that couples spend in intercourse is measured, it varies from around 5 to 9 minutes and often less than that. For women, there are two major problems here. Most women will not reach orgasm with those numbers, and many won't even have time to get really aroused. Foreplay, which includes tender talk as well as tender touch, needs to be much longer for women, 15 to 30 minutes on average, depending on her mood, her hormones, and who knows what else. The second very important fact is that intercourse is not the royal road to extreme pleasure and reliable orgasm for most women. It doesn't include enough clitoral stimulation in most positions. When the approach to lovemaking most people practice leaves 1 to 2/3 of women unsatisfied, isn't there something wrong with this picture? There is something wrong, and it's not just for women. When women are left unsatisfied a lot of the time, they tend to become less and less interested in sex. And this becomes a problem for a man who wants an active sex life with his partner. The solution is simple to say, but harder to do. Reinvent sex. That means change your definitions and change your sexual habits. One male advisor of mine suggested that a man needs to understand that you have to seduce every time, not just the first time. I think that's a good idea. Here are some other solutions. First, communicate and compromise. Communication is the first step. This means finding a good time to discuss your feelings and wishes about frequency. It's best to make an appointment with each other for this discussion and to have it when you have some time when you can be relaxed and not interrupted. Right before or during lovemaking is not the best time. You need to increase your understanding of what each really longs for in your intimate life. If you're like most couples, you don't understand each other fully about this. For instance, Maria feels like Jose wants sex every night, no matter what. To Jose, it seems like Maria has more reasons than you can count for saying that tonight is not a good night. There's probably something underneath those positions. In general, it's fair to say that if sexual contact feels nurturing and sweet and pleasurable, most people want to do it often. An old movie, I believe it was Annie Hall, shows the husband complaining to his psychiatrist that she never wants to make love, only 3 times a week. Then the woman is shown complaining to her psychiatrist that he always wants to make love 3 times a week. Struggling over this is not so funny. We're also very vulnerable where our sexuality is concerned. If you approach your partner with an open heart and hungry body, being turned down is painful. or having your partner approach you when it's just not in you to be sexy right now is also difficult. Here's the compromise. Let's spend some time cuddling and maybe making out, and I'll give you a back rub or something else you'd like, and we can see what happens. This needs to be done in good faith, meaning I'll take no for an answer on one side, and I'll find something I can give willingly on the other. There's also the take one for the team approach on occasion. If you don't really feel strongly about it, doing it your partner's way as a gift of love is a good idea. Don't make a habit of doing something you really don't want to do, though. Protecting your partner from your resentments is one of the best things you can do for the person you love. So compromise can get you through many times of potential conflict. But what if the conflict is more severe and persistent, such that one of you really wants intimacy a lot more than the other one does? From long years of experience assisting many kinds of couples with this issue, I believe that learning to have more rather than less intimate time will serve you both best in the long run. The way this approach can work for both of you is through the reinvention idea I spoke of earlier. Let's get rid of the idea that foreplay plus intercourse equals sex and replace it with sex equals any one of 1,000 delicious possibilities. I'm going to repeat that since that's the central thesis of this module. Let's get rid of the idea that foreplay plus intercourse equals sex and replace it with sex equals any one of 1,000 delicious possibilities. Now we've come to the action steps, which are such an important part of every one of these modules. Having information is only one step, but what do you do with it? So the first action step in this module is nights of service. That means that one partner receives only while the other one gives only. This is discussed more fully in my book, Ecstatic Lovemaking, and it's mentioned in other modules in this series too. It starts with making a choice of who will give and who will receive this time, and then you switch roles the next time. So after you decide for this time, one partner lies down and gets comfortable. He or she then requests any pleasure that seems appealing. It could be oral sex or a foot rub, or one and then the other. The giver has a chance to fully experience giving pleasure, and the receiver has the chance to fully receive. This option is a good one to consider if only one of you feels in the mood. The second option, second action step, is making out without, quote, sex, meaning without intercourse. Are you old enough to remember how enjoyable it can be to kiss and arouse each other without going all the way? Try it. You might like it. The third option is what I call the practice, something I've spoken of in other modules, and something you can do for 15 minutes. It was originally designed for clitoral stimulation. The woman takes off her pants or lifts up her skirt, but otherwise stays dressed, unless she prefers otherwise. The man stays dressed, washes his hands, and uses a lubricated finger to stroke her clitoris for 15 minutes by the clock. The practice builds intimacy, teaches both of you more than you ever knew before about the clitoris and its reactions. It can be a satisfying way to interact in a sexual way. Sometimes you can switch roles. The man lies down and the woman pleasures him. In the practice, there's no goal, just enjoyment and closeness. The fourth action step is taking turns doing self-pleasuring while the other watches. For many couples, this one might seem quite hard, intimidating, embarrassing. We've all been taught that touching ourselves is an activity that maybe we shouldn't do at all, or if we do, it should certainly be solitary. For grown-ups in a loving relationship, though, this rule is out of date. So much can be learned from watching each other self-pleasure. You get to learn how the other person really likes to be touched, and then you can try to imitate that. The fifth action step is useful in several of these modules. It's valuable to have in your relationship building toolkit all by itself. I call it apologies and appreciations. And I want to credit Barry and Joyce DeSalle for first hearing about this exercise from them. In this exercise, partner A takes 3 to 5 minutes to offer apologies. Apologize for everything you can think of, and then ask, is there anything else you would like me to apologize for? Then the other partner offers some apologies. Then you switch to appreciations. Take 3 to 5 or more minutes each to offer each other a lot of appreciations, ending with, is there anything else you would like me to appreciate? After this exercise, ask each other if there is some kind of physical contact you would both welcome now. The answer might be a back rub, or could you massage my feet, or it might be something sexual. Having more sexual intimacy begins with having more emotional and non-sexual physical intimacy. If you do these action steps often, you may find that your conflicts about frequency dissolve somewhat, and you just naturally come together more often by mutual consent. Enjoy yourselves.